ICPC International Classification of Primary Care. So what is ICPC? It is a classification that reflects distribution and content of aspects of primary care. It is an epidemiological tool to classify data about the healthcare encounters, reason for encounter, diagnosis, and process of care. It is used in paper-based and statistical collections and electronic information systems for both encounters and episodes of care. So how did ICPC begin? Let's go back in time and study ICPC's history and how it all started. In 1963, the Royal College of General Practitioners estimated that only 55% of diseases in general practice could be diagnosed accurately. In 1970s, ICD is still the classification being used to classify most morbidity data collected in primary care setting for research and statistical purposes. In 1972, the Wonka International Classification Committee had its first meeting in Melbourne and agreed that it was time to design a classification specifically for primary care. Recognizing the problems in ICD, the Wonka International Classification Committee designed and developed the International Classification of Health Problems in Primary Care, published in 1975. During the Conference on Primary Health Care in Alma-Ata in 1978, the World Health Organization recognized that building appropriate primary care systems will allow assessment and implementation of healthcare priorities. This led to the development of a family of classifications, particularly in primary care. A small working party was formed under the auspice of the World Health Organization to develop the reason for visit classification. Over the years of work, the party developed the reason for encounter classification. The second edition of the ICH-PPC was published in 1979, which is related to the ninth revision of ICD. The first field trial to test the completeness and reliability of the reason for encounter classification was a pilot study carried out in the Netherlands. The results obtained from the pilot study prompted further feasibility testing carried out in 9 countries, including the Philippines, in 1983. It is also the time where the third edition of ICH-PPC was published, commonly known as ICH-PPC2 defined. A project sponsored by the European Commission to test the usefulness of the system in producing morbidity data from general practice to national health information systems. This involved the translation of the classification and comparative studies across the countries. In the course of the feasibility testing, it was noted that the reason for encounter classification could easily be used to classify simultaneously the reason for encounter, process of care, and health problems diagnosed. Thus, this led to the publication of the first edition of ICPC. The results from the European project were published in a book including an update on ICPC in 1993. The second version of ICPC was published in 1998, and in 2000, an electronic version was released. During the 2003, the World Health Organization recognized that ICPC2 is a related classification for the recording of data in primary care. So now, let us study the structure of ICPC. ICPC has a biaxial structure with 17 chapters on one axis and 7 components on the other. The chapters are based on body systems identified by a single alpha code. The components, on the other hand, are identified by 2-digit numeric codes. Component 1 provides rubric for symptoms and complaints. It drew the National Ambulatory Medical Care Survey, reason for visit classification, and on the reason for encounter classification.
Created using Powtoon.